Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Welcome to Too Much. I hope everyone is doing okay. I have found the past couple weeks a little bit challenging to navigate, so I'm sending a little extra love everyone's way. 'Cause I think we all need a little extra boost right now. But what is turning my day around is that I am here today with the magnificent Hailie Sahar. I'm so happy to have you.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here with you.
So I'm going to read about Hailie so we can brag a little before we dig in. Hailie Sahar is an award-winning actor, producer, director, singer, and writer. She made history as one of the 5 transgender lead actors in Ryan Murphy's groundbreaking FX series Pose, where she starred as Lulu, mother of the House of Ferocity. The ensemble went on to achieve global recognition and multiple Emmy Awards across 3 celebrated seasons. Sahar also made history as the first transgender actor to appear on 2 television shows simultaneously, starring as Lulu in Pose and Jasmine in Freeform's Good Trouble, all while holding a national commercial contract with Discovery. Expanding her creative reach, Sahar released her debut music video, Star Traveler, which is awesome. So I hope everyone, if you haven't watched it, you go see it. And she launched her lifestyle brand, House of Sahar, which debuted with her signature fragrance, Sultana. Her film and stage credits include portraying community pioneer Sylvia Rivero in HBO Max's Equal, recurring as Jasmine in Good Trouble, appearances in Amazon Studios' Transparent and USA's Mr. Robot, and starring in the off-Broadway production of Charm. She also executive produced and co-directed the documentary Ed Buck. And in 2020, Deadline announced Sahar's collaboration with Emmy Award-winning director Anthony Hemingway on the Sir Lady Java biopic, in which she will executive produce and star as a trailblazing Los Angeles icon. Her visibility and impact extend beyond performance. She's been featured in Vogue, Essence, Variety, Allure, and Out magazine, and was named one of People magazine's most beautiful people in 2020. She is also one of the few trans women to be profiled by Playboy magazine, furthering representation and solidarity. Crowned both Miss LA Pride and Queen USA, Sahar continues to use her platform for advocacy. She was invited to speak on the HIV/AIDS epidemic at the Ronald Reagan International Trade Center for the 57th Presidential Advisory Council in Washington, D.C., and she remains actively involved with the East LA Women's Center Against Domestic Violence. Woo, how does it feel to hear how amazing you are?
Thank you for saying that. I don't think I've heard all of that together. So I'm listening and I'm taking that in. I'm like, I did do that. Okay. That felt really good. And so thank you for
Yeah. We have to remember how much impact we're making. And so sometimes it's nice to hear the bio because then it's like, oh, yes, I've done more than I think I've done.
yeah, well, it's one of those things too where you're always on the go, wanting to do more and make changes, right, as activists. So I don't stop to think about that. But thank you for saying that.
We're going to start the very beginning because this podcast is all about showing people new blueprints to live their most fulfilling lives. And you are the ultimate embodiment of this, building new roads to success, pushing your own path. And so I want to know, how old were you when you knew your destiny?
How old was I? I was very young. I was probably around I think I was in grade school because well, I'll go back further. And just so you know, we'll add to that. I wrote a book recently, so I go deeper into the details. So I won't say too much, but I'll tell you that when I was really little, my mother always played music around the house, Michael Jackson, Prince, Stevie Wonder, things like that. So I always remember growing up dancing and just being very artistic around the house. And so I had a love there for that. Every year we watched the Nutcracker, and one year I told my mom, I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I was in grade school when I said that. And I just knew then, I knew it was something that was a calling for me. I didn't know that I had a natural gift. I started off dancing professionally first. And so my mom actually went and put me into gifted schools and really honed in on my craft. And so I'm really appreciative of that. But it was in grade school when I knew.
Amazing, right? I think little kids have the most supreme intelligence because they're not as clouded by societal judgment. I think if you go back to what you wanted to be when you're 5, it's usually pretty close to your soul calling.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
So it takes an immense amount of courage to step into a creative life beyond, as a child, you sort of pursue it outside of school if you're lucky enough. But then as you become an adult, it takes an immense amount of courage because a creative life is not guaranteed. There is not usually a salary associated with a creative life. So how did you start that path? Like how did that break open for you?
It was very unconventional for obvious reasons. I think that it was a matter of just not giving up and I guess acting out of my own intuition. There was no path for me to really follow, especially when I transitioned. I medically and socially transitioned as a teenager. And though I had already started dancing and doing some acting work before my transition, when I really got serious about it, I kind of just would go after every audition I could, and I got a lot of doors closed in my face. People, once they discovered that I was trans after me telling them, it was like, no, we don't represent that here, or you're a liability to our company. And so it was just a matter of me never letting go of my dream and knowing that light that I felt when I was a child watching the Nutcracker was something that was given from God, and I couldn't ignore it. I think it was just me not giving up and me not settling for no, and me knowing that the impossible is possible. I mean, I'm living my dream right now as the woman that I manifested when I was a child. That was kind of what it was for me.
How did you measure progress? 'Cause as a creative, it's very hard to know if you're moving forward in your career because there's a lot of forward momentum and then it feels like there's a lot of step backward. How did you measure that you were moving in the right direction?
Let me think about that for a second because I want to answer you and give you, what I was really going through. So I don't really think about this often. So let me think about this for a moment. Um, I think it was like something was pulling me. And every time I did something, I would get a feeling about it. So for example, I knew that I wanted to be an actor, a producer, and a dancer. I didn't know how I was going to get there. But there were a lot of setbacks. But every moment that I did something, I took it as a learning lesson. And so for me, that was a step in the right direction, right? Because there was no blueprint, because I didn't have anything to follow. There was no one that came before me that I knew to look to that was like me, embodied everything as a trans woman. And so I thought every step I took was a step in the right direction. Even if it was what I thought was a failure, it was a curving tool to get me where I was supposed to go. And that was what kept me going and kept me believing. And I think I just have strong determination. I'm a very determined person. I don't take no for an answer. I do everything with integrity. And I have a deep belief that when you do things with integrity, the universe will respond to that. And so that belief system that I live by governs my life. And that's what really kept me knowing that I was headed in the right direction.
I love the idea of using failure as curiosity. That's really where I've started to move to as well is okay, what can I learn from this experience versus taking it personally? And then when you come from a place of curiosity, you're able to keep going in a different way because it doesn't feel like such a personal hit.
Yes. Yes. Well, I agree with that. And I think that, again, it's a way of life, right? I believe that the universe responds to what you give it. And I believe in the manifestation of things. And so I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that's always easy because we're still in these human forms, right? So that flesh part of you kicks in, that doubt kicks in. But if you can override that with never letting go of that dream and that thing that you have in your heart. I mean, it comes with being really in tune with yourself. And I'm a very in tune person with my purpose and with life, and I pay attention to things. I think if you live by that way of life, I think those things just fall into place.
Well, there's also something to be said that choosing to live as your truest self as a teenager, you're forced to know yourself in a deeper way because you're making counter mainstream culture choices. I don't know. That's not may not be the best way to put it, but I think that there's a level of deeper knowing at a younger age, which you've then been able to fine tune your intuition in a way that maybe some of us later in life are forced to have that self reckoning, but it may not have happened as early as you had it.
You know what I think it was? And I think this is something to be said too about just the contribution that trans people, gender nonconforming people bring to humanity. I didn't have the luxury, I'm gonna call it luxury. I didn't have the luxury to not pay attention to what was going on with me internally. I think a lot of times people that know at an early age that something is off here, I don't feel in alignment with my physical. I think it forces you to look at the inner side of yourself. And that's something people tend to do, like you said, later on in life when they've gotten past the smoke and the illusion of the matrix, right? I didn't have that luxury. As a child, it was miserable for me. I was so uncomfortable with everything, every part of my life. I was very uncomfortable in my own skin. I was awkward. I was quiet. I was shy. And I was really thinking, though, why don't I feel in alignment with up here? I couldn't articulate it that way, but I knew that. And I didn't know it then, but I was already starting that path of focusing on what really matters and who I really am inside. And yeah, I don't like the reverse of what typically happens with people.
In some ways, I know you're saying it's a luxury for other people, but in some ways, you being tested that way, you're living your most authentic, truest life, and that's what I believe most humans aspire to, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think when I say luxury too, I just want to emphasize, I think there's something really beautiful about not having to know what's going on in the world. You get to have that childhood moment. You get to just
Mhm.
live in a world of make believe and fun and have friends and just be a child. So that's why I say luxury. I didn't have that. And I really feel like a lot of my childhood was missed out on because it wasn't happy for me. And that's true for a lot of people that are dealing with the same things or similarly to me.
Yeah. I even feel this now with people that I'm running into contact with that are just not concerned with the state of the world as it is. And I find that very hard to understand just because it's obviously very important to me because I care about my people. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, how crazy that you can just go and live every day as if people's rights aren't being dismantled, as if people aren't being taken off the street. And like you, it's quote unquote a luxury, that level of privilege. But I don't want to be less awake. I'm like, that must be nice to not care at the same time. I think this is what we're here to do is to really fucking care about other people. So I agree. I understand the perception of like, oh, how nice you must just, you're just unconscious to what's happening around you. What a way to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss, but I don't think it's the way to live. But a lot of people do live and exist in that space.
Totally. So when things got really hard and you were in that, say, one of the deepest places of doubt, how did you work through your commitment being tested?
I'm going to answer it this way. Honestly, I've never been in doubt. I've always known there were challenges and I was very present and aware of that. I never was in doubt.
Mm,
And again, I believe truly God has called me to this space, whatever you believe in. God, the universe, goodness, that frequency. I never had doubt. I just knew that it was going to take time to get to
mhm.
where I needed to go. How long, I don't know, but I never had doubt. If anything, I was frustrated because I knew that I
Yeah.
was brilliant. Yes. I knew that I was worthy enough to be in positions to speak for people. I knew that I had the heart and the integrity and the gift behind that to support it. So if anything, I was angry at times, but I wasn't doubtful.
Mhm.
I forget the last part of your
Yeah, but
question.
this is actually really great because I think a lot of creatives feel this way who believe they're here for a purpose. They believe they're here to contribute something to culture and society in a meaningful way. When it's not on your timeline, and so say you're frustrated with the universe and you're like, "Okay, like what's happening? When? How did you deal with that?" That is definitely something that is highly relatable, is you're here for a reason, but you're just like, "Okay, why is this taking so long?"
Well, I mean, I definitely have had many nights, I still do, crying and praying. And I think it was the manifestations and the teachings of my mother. I grew up religious, right? So I'm more spiritual now, but my father is a pastor. My grandfather was a pastor. And so I grew up having a foundation of faith. And it was my faith that kept me going, but it was challenging at times. And I think again, it was just not letting go of that dream that I knew that I had, not forgetting that essence. It's like that feeling I felt when I was a kid watching the Nutcracker, or the first time I ever performed for an audience. There was a magic that happened. And I really believe that the gifts that you're given are the channels in which God and the universe really reaches you and speaks to you and resonates the most. So
Mm,
that feeling was so familiar with me, and I wanted to get back to it because it was the happiest place for me. Outside
mm.
of all of the noise and the craziness that, I was maneuvering through in my own personal life with family, with just social spaces, the happiest space for me was in entertainment. And I wanted to get back to that joy because it was all that I felt that I had. And so I went hard. I went really hard. Many nights I didn't eat. I was, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but many nights I didn't eat. I was studying, 3 or 4 auditions at a time, going up, waiting in the rain for auditions, knocking on people's doors, wanting anyone just to give me a chance. And every little bit I took as a victory. If it was a small club that I was doing a performance at a lip sync performance or anything, I took that as a victory because I'm like, someone might be here, someone here I can network with. And I just became like really in grind mode, and I just would not take no for an answer. And I told God, I said, God, this is either going to make me successful or this is going to be what takes me out. I don't know, but I'm not giving up because I want this. And you gave me this gift. You put this feeling in me. And so I spoke to God. I'm like, God, bless me. I want to speak to people. I want to be a good role model. I'm not perfect. I never claimed to be, but I wanted this. And I was that determined. And that's what I really used to push through those hard times. And I hope that answers the question. I think I went on a tangent.
No, it was great. I'm like, I wanna clip that now and make that my morning affirmation. So every morning, I'm just gonna be like, "Press play on Haley's," like, I'm like, "Yep, God, we're determined." It's really good.
Okay, and it's not easy. I don't wanna sugarcoat that and say, I mean, I think looks can be deceiving. I don't think I look anything like what I've been through or what I'm saying, but it's true. It's true, and it's hard. And so again, I say it's not just in the moment, it's a way of life that I practice. I practice this. I take time to meditate and practice this type of manifestation.
Well, I actually wanna touch on that because you were saying, you're like, "I wanna go back to that feeling of
Mhm.
entertainment where I felt the most joy, feeling the nutcracker." Everyone has a different mode of manifestation. So I don't know for you, it's getting back to that core feeling where, because once you feel it, they say, then it can come out in the 3D. Until you have the feeling, you can't live it. So just can you tell us about your methodology around manifestation?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was the feeling first. I think that I've grown from that now. Not from it, but I've added to that. Now it's for the people.
Mm.
First off, I do what I do for the art. I'm a lover of the arts with no biases. I just love great art. I love quality. But I do it for the people now. That's added to that. Now with the platform, I see how being visible, being an artist and using my gifts God has given me can bless the world. And whatever people's have to say or whatever they believe in, I know what I stand for and I know what's true. And anyone that's wise also knows what's true. So it's the people, it's seeing people happy, it's seeing people come together, it's seeing people and them seeing that everything is possible just from watching people like me. So it's the gift, it's the feeling that I feel when I do what I do, but it's also the people and who I touch. I think that's the biggest blessing and joy that I've felt is to know that I've done something beyond my own self-gain, right? I say like I love the feeling of being an artist and I love that energy I get. That's a self thing. But beyond that, I love that I've touched other people and I constantly am able to touch other people and bring out that light in them. Everyone has a light. You don't have to be an entertainer. You can be a carpenter. You can be anything. You could be a lawyer.
Yes.
Everyone has something. And it's about igniting that, right? Because we're only here for as long as we're here. And we're all having a human experience. But I think a lot of times people get caught up in the matrix of things, right? They get caught up in superficial things.
Yeah.
But it's really about the spirituality and who you are. And so if I can ignite that in everybody as much as possible, that's also what I do it for.
I love that. Is that one of your main drivers when you're assessing roles you wanna take on? What is the lens in which you decide what your next step or role is gonna be?
Well, I always want to do things with integrity. I always want to stand for things that really drive home messages. And I also look to take on roles that will challenge me. Once I've done something, I want to challenge myself because, again, I'm a lover of just the arts. And I do come from pulling myself up by the bootstraps. And I really look at scripts and see like what does this script stand for? And that doesn't mean I'm not open to comedy because I think that's a gift too, right? Laughter and joy, that's something that brings unity to people. So it's just about the quality of projects that I look at to take on, which is why I'm really excited about the Sir Lady Java project. As many people know and don't know, Sir Lady Java in the 1960s helped to change Rule number 9, which used to prohibit anyone from dressing and living and working as the opposite gender assigned at birth. And so this was a law. People were thrown in jail, people were murdered. And this trans woman, who was an artist as well, she performed with Rhett Fox and Richard Pryor and Little Richard, Etta James. She, was targeted by the LAPD, and she took it to court over the course of years, and she won that case. And so now look at me here. People know me from Pose and Good Trouble and Sylvia Rivera and all the stuff you named, but I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for Java. So that goes into what I'm saying about taking on roles that have integrity, that have depth to them, and really tell a story and really challenge me to educate myself, study harder. So that's pretty much what goes into me choosing projects. I hope that answered all of your question.
Yeah, totally. So we're living in this time in Hollywood, sadly, where there's a lot of DEI backlash, as you and I both share a passion for storytelling, largely because we believe it can change the world. And as you've said, speak into future generations, show them if we can see it, we can be it. And it's a really challenging and sad time for a lot of artists I know. How are you navigating the current Hollywood framework?
Well, I am learning to pace myself.
Mm,
I'm learning to take each day as it comes. There's a lot of craziness happening right now, as we know. But it's again going back to what I said before, the not having a blueprint. I just have strong faith that everything will work out. I believe that the universe sees everything, documents everything, calculates everything, and I believe in karma as well. And so, though things look dark now, that's not new to me personally. I've seen those things before in my own personal life,
mhm.
which you'll learn about a lot of different things I've never spoken about publicly in my book when it comes out too. But it's having that faith and manifesting positive things. This may sound bizarre to some people, but I pray for the administration. I actually get on my knees at night and I pray. I pray that hatred is lifted off of people. And I know that everyone's more like meet fire with fire, but fire with fire makes a bigger fire. And there is a time to fight, and there is a time to speak and be wise and speak love into people. People with that much hatred, they need love. People with that much malice, they need prayer. And so I believe that we need to come together as a community, as people, put aside whatever differences you think you're having. Everyone is having the human experience, and that's where we connect at. And we need to fight the good fight, lean on each other. And that's kind of just my belief system. So I believe things will get better. Um, the bad guys never win. And
Yeah.
so that's what I live by, as hard as it is. And I don't want to lessen that
No,
as if it's not
totally.
challenging because it is. But I've had to, you know, meditate and take time to process everything.
I agree with you that I don't believe they're gonna win, but it's one of those things where, day-to-day livelihood is affected, right? So separate from just less roles being available or offered with the contraction of Hollywood, we're also seeing daily attacks on the trans community, which affects a lot of people's day-to-day lives, especially with this potential passport legislation. And so what is the best way to show up for the community right now? How do we actively support the trans community?
I think people need to vote first off, and I think people need to speak out. I think people need to use their platforms, their social settings, their social groups to speak up, speak out. And I'm gonna answer that in two ways. So that will be part of my answer, right? We need to come together and, like I was saying before, put aside our biases and things that we think make us different, because we're ultimately not at the end of the day. Come together and support one another. Anyone's rights being taken from them is a human issue. No matter what you think, you look at me and you learn about my story because I told you something. And so therefore you think you can judge me and put me in a box. That could be said the same for you, but that doesn't get us anywhere. So this has been going on since the beginning of time. And if we haven't learned anything, we should learn that coming together in numbers is impactful. So voting, standing up, protesting, speaking out. I mean, look at what just happened with Jimmy Kimmel's show. He got canceled. People rallied. Guess what? He has a show now again. The power is in the people. So it's not believing the propaganda that's been put out. It's believing in what's in front of you. We are stronger together than separate. I think the enemies and people want you to think that you're different. And so they try to ostracize people into groups and categories. But
Yeah.
that's a trick. That's a trick. It's about coming together and fighting the fight so that we're all able to exist and have as much fun and positivity as we can in life while we're here. The other way that I'm going to answer that is people, for the most part, know what to do. They have to actually do it though. So I could say all of what I just said, but if you don't care to actually care,
Yep.
it doesn't matter. It just goes on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Um, so we can say this, and I've heard many other people say this. So it's not like it's new information. And for those that haven't heard this, then great, they just heard it. But for those that have, it's about actually caring. And it was Nina Simone, I believe, that said, it's an artist's duty to reflect the times. Well, I'm going to add to that. If it's an artist's duty to reflect the times, then it's every human's duty to reshape those times.
Mm,
So that's what we need to live by. And if you think it doesn't impact you now, it will. The totem pole just it goes to the next group of people that people deem are worthy of, not caring about.
yeah. And there's so many small things. For example, in California right now, you probably know better than me, but I think there's about 5 bills for trans rights on the table to be signed and coded into law. I called my reps, takes 2 seconds, you leave a message. That's something you can do right now. If the federal is another level of fight, we can all start at the state level. And it's really important to prioritize those things that we don't usually have in our daily tasks. Just put it in. It takes 2 minutes. It makes a really, really big difference. And I think there's a lot of fear right now around speaking up based on the culture that the administration is creating. And I understand that everyone has a different level of risk tolerance. I'm obviously have high risk tolerance, but I don't think we have a choice. I sort of sit here and I'm like, if one person's being harmed at the expense of my silence, I can't be silent.
Absolutely. Well, that goes back into coming together. I get that people are afraid, but I know bullies. I grew up with bullies. I was bullied all of my life in school and with family, which again, you'll learn about in my book. So I know bullies when I see bullies. You can't be afraid of the bully though. And when you have other people rallying behind you, coming back, coming together, it's less afraid. It's less fearful. And so if we come together and you see side by side, hey, we're standing side by side. We're stronger together than we are separately. But you never let a bully win. And that's exactly what's happening. I know bullies when I see them. Bullies picked on me in school. Bullies taunted me, teased me. And so I know them and I'm not afraid of that. And we can't live in fear. And I know that's easier said than done. But again, that's why I think it's important to come together so that people know that they have allyships. And what you're doing right now is that as well. What we're doing together is that. And so I think more people need to do that. I mean, social media has been a blessing, but I think it's also hindered us. It's a blessing because we're able to get messages out and people are able to have platforms and do something impactful with them. But I also believe that it's caused us to lose our empathy. Just think about how much you're scrolling on the phone and you see, I don't know, police brutality, you see this administration, you see all of these different things, and you're like, oh, I'm going to the next thing as if it's like a movie. So
Yeah.
there's this thing that's happened. But if we can utilize these tools that we have at our expense for good and come together, I think that we will again fight the good fight. And, I think that's what I'll say on that.
A lot of the othering that's happening too is happening with people that don't have direct experience with whatever group they're talking about. And I think about this a lot as someone who's canvassed in places that are very different to where I live. And a lot of it is just, as you said, if we just talk to each other, we realize we're all the same. Through social media specifically, we dehumanize and separate because we are behind a screen. So we don't engage in a loving, compassionate way that I think if we were all just to talk to each other, we could find the common ground. Now, the reality is, like, I don't have to agree with you all the time, but I can respect your humanity. And that's what I think the real problem is, because a lot of times when I hear this rhetoric around whether it's immigrants or the trans community, I'm like, if you know these people, how could you possibly deny their rights?
Well, that's the thing, people don't, and they don't have those experiences, and I think there's a lack of accountability when it comes to doing their own research. People doing, even myself, I could hear something someone says and I could take it as truth, or I could hear what they say and then do my own research and come up with my own understandings, or actually gain some experiences before I speak on them and before I vote against them. But I think that just comes with a lack of accountability and laziness. There's no other way else to say that. And again, people, they don't, think because it doesn't affect them directly. At least they think it doesn't at the moment. They don't care to look deeper into things. But again, once one thing happens, it goes to the next group of people. So if it doesn't affect you now, it will eventually. And so again, it's going back to human rights, and it doesn't matter the in between of what you believe in or don't believe in. It's respecting each other's right to exist and have health care and have protection. That's just a human right. There's no questioning that.
I read this thing recently that's like, if democracy means your freedoms can be taken away at any point, then we're not living in a free democracy.
Yeah.
If you have to constantly like fight to keep your freedom, that's something for us to think about as we move forward, that maybe some of these things should be inalienable human rights, right?
Yes. Mhm.
I ask this because I know it's a big part of who you are, but for people that are more fear-based or more risk averse, how do you stay so fearless?
I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. And to me, I believe God shows up in many spaces. God shows up, the presence, God is love, right? So love shows up in many spaces. Let me just say that. For anyone that's not a believer of God, if you're a Buddhist, whatever you are, there's love in all of those things. I know that we come from something that is bigger than us, right? I'm not tied to the human flesh in the sense of I don't govern my life by other humans and wickedness. So that does not make me fearful.
Mm,
I know my higher power. I know the source that made me also made you. I know the source that made me also made the administration that we're in. And I know that, again, karma does not forget anything. I know that the universe does not forget anything. I believe in a higher power, and I'm not caught up in the matrix of this world. I'm here to enjoy it. Yes, enjoy the things that you of the land, but I don't live in it. I'm just in it. I don't live for it. And so it's what keeps me in that space. And again, it goes back to it's a way of life that I choose to live. It's not just something I'm saying today and then we get off of this interview and then I just go back to being worried. I watch services every Sunday. I read, I um, meditate. I am very cognizant of what I consume. And so that's what keeps me in this space. But it's something you have to work at. I work
yeah.
at it constantly. I still have moments of, when doubt ever creeps in, mm-mm, no, no, I'm not doing that. I'm stronger than that. What I was created for and who I was created by is better than that. And I'm always reminded I'm a child of God. And what that looks like is in many, many things. And that's what keeps me going. It's the way of life that I'm choosing to manifest and live.
Mhm. We talk about new blueprints a lot on this podcast. We bring people who affirm that. One of the concepts we have discussed is neuroplasticity, this idea that what we ingest becomes how our brain functions. And so, what Haley just so beautifully reiterated for us is that when we choose to engage with positivity and love, we choose to listen to, when I'm going to cut up her section earlier in this podcast as our affirmations, and we let those code in our brains, our brain starts to change the way it thinks. So yes, doubt might still show up, but we can interrupt the thought pattern and say, oh, not today. I see you. We're going to choose to speak to ourselves differently. And like you, I've spent the past decade doing a lot of this work myself. And what's so cool about it, and what I'd love to drive home, is that's what's so cool about neuroplasticity. You can change the way your brain works. And so I see now all these small moments where I used to have a lot of doubt, or I used to, really get angry or frustrated or go down these spirals or feel really heartbroken. And now I approach it with curiosity. Now I approach it with, oh, let me just listen to that affirmation today and change the day. Because I can let myself have a pity party for 15 minutes. That's great. I'm a human being. I'm allowed to cry. I'm allowed to do all those things. But then I can also choose to take control of my day and my brain and say, all right, these thoughts aren't going to ruin the rest of my day.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, it's okay to feel what you feel. Please feel what you feel. Get it out of you. Don't hold it down, but don't live in that. Don't become that, because where you're at now is not where you'll be tomorrow. If you, like you said, are manifesting and actively practicing ways to change your thought patterns. So, my grandfather, who passed away, the pastor, he used to say, yesterday is gone forever, tomorrow never was. So now is all you really have. And if now is what you have, then manifest what you want to happen for tomorrow. And that's the way of life and living and existing. Things are challenging, things are hard, things can be scary for people, but don't live in fear. God is not a fearful God. Love is not fearful. Love is powerful. Love is the most powerful thing. So if we can learn to love one another, as cliche as that may sound, it's the truth. If we can learn to love one another, come together, and actively practice how we can live in harmony by supporting each other, voting, calling, and, you know, on other people's behalfs and calling things out, I think this will be a better world. And it's time. I mean, again, life is so short when you think about it, and it really should be lived in peace and joy as much as possible. And so the only way to do that is to manifest and change our patterns and fight.
What's been so affirming about this podcast is that as we talk to everyone who's living these blueprints, creating frameworks, is that we have everything we could possibly need to live in this more harmonious, loving world. We just have to put them into practice. And that's why I'm trying to aggregate them all in one place on this podcast, because I don't want us to be searching for things that already exist. I just want them to be like, oh, here it is. How do we apply this to my company? How do I apply this to my life? We have every single thing we need. We are living among the greatest thinkers, the greatest innovators, the greatest creators of all time. And I'm just always so blown away by the people that I get to talk to. And that's one of the things that's been restoring my faith in humanity during this time, is talking to people like you. And right now I have some little baby practices that keep me really loving and hopeful, this podcast being one of them. What are your practices to staying loving and hopeful in this time?
Well, a couple of things. Again, it's the people. I read, I mean, I may not respond to a lot of things, but I read a lot of the emails that come through. I have fans that email me. I read all of their messages and my team gives them to me. And so it's the people. And also it's believing that we can live in harmony and wanting to actually see that manifest. One of the biggest joys that I had that really sparked that joy for me was I was able to take care of Sir Lady Java before she passed away. I didn't say it publicly until she passed away because I didn't want anyone to, I didn't want any type of publicity for that. But it was taking care of our elders within community and actually hearing their stories and their struggles and giving back to others. That's what keeps me going. And so, yeah, doing things like this. And also, too, I want to tell you the feeling is mutual. I love that you're doing this. And I love that people have somewhere where they can go to get this type of information. And so, yeah, that's what it is for me.
Thank you for saying that. Means a lot. I really appreciate it because it's hard, as you know, as it's, and some days are hard when you're pursuing your own creative blueprint. And so it's nice when it feels like it's
I know.
connecting. Yeah.
Yes.
And so what's next? What can we keep our eyes peeled for? What's next for you?
Okay, so as you mentioned before, I did release my fragrance, which I'm so happy about, Sultana from the House of Sahar. You can purchase it at houseofsahar.com. It's limited edition, so we've only created 1,000 bottles. And so it's doing pretty well, but there are some left. So definitely check it out. It's a unisex fragrance, all natural ingredients. It is a niche brand, so you're going to get the highest concentrations. And I'm really proud about that. Again, to the Sir Lady Java project that I'm producing. working with Anthony Hemingway, who just celebrated his 50th birthday. Happy birthday to him. We are still actively working towards the 30 Lady Java project, and it's something that I'm the most proud of right now in my life because it has intentionally taken this amount of time because I wanted it to be right. And I wanted the story to be one that she would be proud of. And so she actually had a hand in saying exactly what she wanted to be told in her story. So we've been working with the best people possible, connecting all of the dots. And I'm so happy with where it's at right now. So be on the lookout for the So Lady Java project that I am co-executively producing and also starring as Sir Lady Java, the icon. Rest in peace. And what else? I mentioned I wrote my first book about my life, and I was so candid with it. So we are still finalizing some book deal options right now, but when it's ready to come out, I would be happy to come back and talk about it. I'm really proud of this body of work. It was a new space for me to be in, to be this authentic. I tend to be a very reserved person, so I was very candid with this book, and I'm saying a lot of things in there nobody knows about. And so the mystery will be cracked open. You'll get to know exactly who I am and the things that I had to navigate through in detail. And so those are some of the things that I'm really proud about. And the other things I'll mention later when they're more developed.
I can't wait to read the book. I am writing a book now, so I know how much work it takes. It's a big, big lift. So
Yes.
congrats on that. It's major, major. I totally underestimated what a book was. I think I still
Yeah.
do sometimes because you have to be a little bit delusional to write a book. But that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to that. And we'll put in the show notes House of Sahar and everything else. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to share with us your beautiful story, but also in these times specifically, we need really clear feedback on what to do. And that's really what we're trying to do is give people some tools so people feel less helpless. So thank you for taking the time to share that with us.
Thank you. And thank you for having this platform again and for doing what you're doing. And I'm always here to support you as well in what you're doing. So thank you. And this was about, it's about coming together and uniting in love.
Yes. Well, I adore you. So thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to Young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle, Dana Bulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.